Let's talk about the Jordan Neely situation. Today, Daniel Penny, who's the former Marine who killed Neely, he choked him until he, I think, suffocated was the official diagnosis. They ruled as a homicide, but he was charged. The DA brought him out, and I think they're going to charge him with manslaughter, which is, I think, murder three. It's basically involuntarily killing someone. He turned himself in, and you have the typical fanfare of the conservatives. I was reading Dan Crenshaw's Instagram, and he's obviously a former Marine himself, and he was saying, this is ridiculous. We're literally protecting criminals and hurting heroes. And then you have on the left side, there's a lot of people who've been calling for his arrest, who've been protesting. There was a protest at the station the day after. There was a protest, I think, 2 days after that, where they stopped the train and jumped in the tracks. So there's been a lot of protests by New Yorkers saying kind of this is injustice, something needs to be done. And I want to talk to what I think is a fundamental kind of dichotomy that needs to be discussed, and also I think what is, to me, a very sad lack of focus in the conversation. So I want to preface it by saying I think a loss of life is tremendously sad on all fronts, and there's no way to look at this situation and not feel that there's a multi-layer cascade of failures by the government, by the police to protect citizens in the subway, by any sort of mental health service to provide for Jordan Neely, homeless shelters to have adequate housing, and you could argue, some do, for the criminal justice system. They say he has a arrest record of 40 counts should he be out in the street. We'll get into that a little bit later, but either way, it touches many, many layers of government, and any side you're on, people feel that there's failures. So there's clearly some failures. To what extent they are in different arenas, depends on kind of your political leanings. But I think what I would really like to speak to is the idea of safety and the idea of what is the obligation of individual citizens in a time when we are calling for reduced police presence, reduced police budgets, defund police in New York. I was part of the protests, and I saw a lot of the protests happening during the Black Lives Matter movement, where there was a big movement to say we want less police presence in the city. And I think that's a fair criticism. Again, obviously, I'm someone that personally believes in trying to use more harm reduction techniques, but a private citizen in the city has a right to feel safe, right? And to how we get there is up for debate, and it's going to take a while. But I think that it's very fair to say that there are many people in the subway, I think in this situation as well, that feel unsafe when someone's acting erratically, aggressively. By all accounts that I've read, Jordan Neely was acting aggressive verbally. I don't think he physically attacked someone, but he said he's ready to go to jail, he's ready to die. He had been accused of doing this before, and I've been in New York City 6 years. I've seen lots of it. I think anyone that's been on the subway has seen lots of it. I actually think that the level of crime tends to be overstated on the subway just because it's so sensationalized. But last year you had a situation where there was a lot of attacks in the subway. I had a lot of friends of mine, there were women that stopped taking the subway. There was one station, I think it was Morgan Ave on the L stop, where the same attacker had been accused, I think 6-7 times. Nothing was being done about it. And so, that's a terrible situation for a lot of people to exist in, want to get to work, want to get home, and feel like they're going to be attacked. And if we live in a situation and a time where we're calling for less police presence, we're calling for less police violence, then we also have to be aware of what's going to happen when people feel like they're being in danger. They see someone else in danger. And I saw a video of a woman the other day, and I don't know when the video was taken, I just saw it the other day, but the woman was grabbed by her hair by a man, and she obviously didn't know the man, and he was aggressively pulling her around and pushing her around the train car, and she was crying, and no one did anything. And there was about 25-30 people that I saw in the video, and no one did anything. I was really shocked. I was really saddened by it, right? I would like to think that in that situation people would step up. I'd like to think I would step up. I haven't been tested, so I don't know. But the point being that if we see our fellow citizens in danger, we have an obligation to do something, I believe, especially if we want to live in a society in which we don't want to feel police are always going to step in and use the most violent means possible. And so conceptually, the idea that, Penny would step in to what he perceived as aggressive behavior, and other passengers, it seemed, did as well, doesn't seem to me wrong in principle, right? I think that this is what happens when you see a lot of good guy with a gun versus bad guy with a gun situations. When people get in vigilante mode, they're not trained for it, and I think that he wanted to step up, but he was a Marine. I think he's 24. I don't think he knows what he's doing, and it doesn't. That's not a technique. All the police departments, they banned the chokehold, and that was the huge issue with Eric Garner. Was that was an illegal move that you're not supposed to do because it kills people. A chokehold literally cuts people's oxygen off, and it kills people. So you have someone that steps in. I don't know what was going through his mind. I know he's a former Marine, so he obviously has some capacity for violence and training to, inflict damage on other people. I don't know what the Marines train specifically, but, he has some training, but that's not his job. Should he have done nothing? I don't know. Should he have done something and not been that aggressive? Again, I don't know. But I understand conceptually being in a situation where you see someone that is acting aggressive, acting erratic, and wanting to protect the citizens around you, and that's where the nuance comes. Like, what would it have taken, right? If Jordan Neely had physically attacked someone, and then all this unfolded, and the same chokehold happened, and he died, would that then not cause the issue because he had physically attacked someone, right? And so, do you wait for that to happen? Do you step in when someone starts saying something aggressive? Because I've seen a lot of times, very, very scary, what I would perceive to be violent situations that just happen verbally, just with threats. And should I do nothing? Should I wait until someone's attacked before stepping in? And that's true of all citizens. So I think these are the questions that we really need to ask ourselves as far as what is it we expect each other to do. Because I think that I don't foresee this being the last situation in which other people are subject to aggression or violence on the subway, and people are going to be scared if they say, listen, if I step up and defend myself, I'm going to get in prison. If I don't step up and defend myself, I'm going to be attacked. It feels like a lose-lose situation, particularly when no one really kind of wants more police in there. It's what are we going to do there? And I think the solution, which seems sensible to me, and I've seen a lot of people talk about, is we need a much better mental health care system. That seems to be the solution across a number of issues. And that's, to me, really the sad part, and I mentioned the lack of focus at the beginning of the video, is that whether or not Penny gets convicted or not, you're going to have people upset on both sides. And there's going to be a lot of talk about this conviction. I personally find that this is just one citizen killing another citizen. And that's sad, but it's something that's happened many times on the New York subway this year, right? And no one has, made a huge issue about it because it's not seen as something that's systemic. This is also now a systemic issue of how do we treat our homeless people, right? And I think that trying to pinpoint all of these failures onto one individual doesn't really solve anything in my mind. And I think that we are not pointing nearly enough fingers on I think the police, the homeless shelters, the mental health facilities. There's a lot of areas that failed that need to kind of step up in the situation. And I think that the level of focus on who Jordan Neely was, who Penny is, I think is super relevant, to be honest. I think that I've been frustrated on both sides. I've seen the left post videos of him kind of moonwalking and in his most innocent light and very kind of innocent, docile. And I've seen videos by, or not videos, but statements by the right speaking to his previous arrest count. I think the number is 40 that I've read. I haven't verified it. I don't know if it's true, but it's this whole thing about what did he deserve it, did he not deserve it? Does it matter? Does it really matter? I don't think it does. Someone got killed by another citizen in either over exuberant vigilanteism or direct harm. He was, you want to take the worst case scenario, he was a racist and saw someone that he thought was violent for no reason and killed them. I don't know. The worst case scenario or the best case scenario, I really don't think makes a huge difference. One person will be implicated or not. That's it. Just to not acknowledge that the level of homelessness is a failure across so many different government departments who are now just kind of riding the publicity parade is really missing the forest for the trees. And I think that discussion needs to be had a lot more center stage. I know some people are talking about it, but it really does feel like it's kind of being, secondary to a lot of the typical fanfare of, the personalization of the victim, of the perpetrator. This wasn't as structured as I thought I was going to be. I've had a lot of thoughts on this for a while, so apologies there. But I guess the bottom line that I was hoping to try and really articulate is that we need to consider, um, what how do personal citizens, or how do private citizens hope to engage in a system and where they feel, unsafe, right? Are we supposed to do nothing? Are we supposed to step up? Are we supposed to get training? Are we supposed to call for more police? There's no clear answer, right? And there are a lot of people that feel unsafe. And I think that until people feel safe, this issue isn't resolved. This issue is going to happen. You're going to have people that are going to, step up and be too aggressive. You're going to have people that do nothing, and we're going to see, victims hurt on the opposite side. So I would love to hear more solutions about that. I would like to hear less of a, who is this person, who is that person, and I would also like to have a little bit more honesty around, what is the state of our subways and how people feel in them. Because I feel like a lot of people that I talk to, they don't ride the subways in New York City. I'm on the subway twice a day. I see it a lot. I know what's happening, and it's exaggerated and completely on one side, and it's ignored by the other. So I think let's kind of really be transparent about it.